interrupting the show for a special report.
Because now it is time for Bag Lab.
All right, tonight's Bag Lab discussion is how to create a hinge zipper pocket, and you can add this to most any wallet or small project that you're working on. So I have a wallet right here, and there's an example of the hinged zipper pocket on the back. So I'm going to have Danny switch to the overhead camera so that I can give you a little bit of a close-up view of what this zipper pocket looks like. All right, so here's the back of the wallet, and I'm using a number 3 zipper for this particular project. And here's the hinged part. It's just on the left side. So what's nice about this is rather than just having a flat zipper pocket, you can fit a little bit more without, I don't want to say stretching out the fabric, but maybe perhaps stressing the fabric a little bit. And when you zip it, it just zips closed and it looks nice and flat on the back. So in just a second, I'm going to be showing a demonstration how to put this together. And as with most of my Bag Lab discussions, I wanted to tailor it to whatever size project that you're working on. So for this particular project, this portion over here, the unfinished size, meaning the size of this area when not sewn, is 8 inches by 4 inches. But say you're making a project that's a little bit bigger than that, you can easily just add to the length and to the height of the pieces. So for example, if you wanted to make this taller, you could make this piece right here longer. Say if you wanted to make it 1 inch taller and 1 inch wider, you could make this piece right here 1 inch longer and the same piece 1 inch taller, and you can leave the rest of the pieces the same. And so I made some pieces that I wanted to share with you before we get into the demonstration. These are the pieces that you'll need for the project. So for this particular project, again, this piece finishes unsewn 8 inches by 4 inches, and you'll just need to, if you need to make it longer, you'll just need to adjust the length of the zipper. But for this demonstration, I used a 9-inch zipper. My exterior A piece, which is my 2 little strips over here, I cut those pieces 1 inch by 4 inch, and you can certainly, if you need to pause this video later on, you can certainly write down the size of my pieces. My next piece, which is piece B, and piece B is the strip above the zipper over here, and I cut that piece 7 1/4 inch by 1 inch. Piece C, which is the piece below the zipper, I cut that 8 1/4 inches by 3 1/4 of an inch. Let me slide that over. And then I have a piece of fabric behind the zipper, this piece over here, and I cut that piece 8 inches by 4 inches. And again, if you need to add to the length or the height, you can easily make that adjustment. And actually, let me lay these pieces out really quick so you can see how they fall into place. So here's my zipper. Piece B goes above it. Piece A goes on either side. Piece C goes underneath the zipper, and then piece D, this will go behind all 3 of these, well, actually all 4 of these pieces put together. So coming up next, I have the video demonstration showing how you can put all of these pieces together, and the resulting piece is this back portion on my wallet, and you can adapt this to a bigger or smaller size depending on your project. Now we're going to be making the zippered coin pocket. So we're going to be trimming away the metal zipper stop off from the front end of the zipper only. So if you're using a zipper by the yard, you'll just have your cut zipper piece and you don't need to do anything else. If you're using a store-bought zipper like this zipper right here, you'll notice the metal zipper stop at the front of the zipper. We're going to be trimming that away. So go ahead and just unzip your zipper head just a little bit. And just go ahead and trim the metal stop away. And after you've trimmed that away, just be careful so that you don't accidentally unzip the head off the zipper tape. So I'm going to put this one to the side since I am using this zipper by the yard piece. So I'm going to go ahead and flip the zipper so that it's right side face down. And unzip your head a couple of inches because we're going to be folding just this bottom edge of the zipper tape toward the wrong side at a 90-degree angle. And we're actually going to make sure that this little tail here overhangs the end of this straight edge of the tape by 1/2 inch. So I'm going to go ahead and pull my ruler in here for just a second, and I'm going to kind of move the end of the zipper tape until I can get it to overhang by just 1/2 inch. So I'm going to use a wonder clip to hold that in place. And we're going to take this over to the sewing machine, and I'm going to sew back and forth a few times just to hold those zipper teeth down. And if you feel more comfortable, you can hand crank your machine to do this instead. And you'll leave the opposite end of the zipper tape unsewn. Now go ahead and pull out your exterior coin purse C piece, and this is that piece with the Shapeflex interfacing that was in from one of the side edges. And I'm going to go ahead and take my zipper, and we're going to be placing it 1.5 inches in from the left hand side. So I'm going to take my ruler, and I'm using Clover Choco, and I'm just going to draw a vertical line that's 1.5 inches in. And you don't have to draw the line all the way down, just along the top edge is fine. Okay, so with the zipper face down, I'm going to place it right sides together with the fabric, and where the zipper teeth here are vertical, I'm going to go ahead and place that right at the line, and the top edge of the zipper tape will be even with the top raw edge of the fabric. So you'll likely need to sort of peek under to make sure that you've got those teeth in the correct place. So I'm going to use wonder clips to hold the layers in place. Go ahead and put your zipper foot on your sewing machine, and we're going to be stitching this top pinned edge using 1/4 inch seam allowance. As I approach the zipper head, I'm going to stop with the needle down, lift the presser foot up, zip the zipper head out of the way, and continue sewing. Now we're going to trim away the overhang from the top portion of the zipper only. And you're just going to trim it even with the top edge of the fabric. And now we're going to add the secondary coin purse C piece. So this is the piece with the Shapeflex interfacing pushed to the side, so it should be oriented just like this. I'm going to place this secondary fabric against the wrong side of the zipper, and I'm going to make sure that the side edges are aligned. So I'm going to use my wonder clips to pin the edges in place. And we're going to be stitching this top pinned edge using 1/4 inch seam allowance. We're going to be sewing from one end to the other, and if you prefer, you can sew from the wrong side of the exterior and stitch directly on top of your previous stitches, except you'll be sewing all the way to the end. Okay, and I'm going to move my zipper head out of the way. Now we're going to press the fabrics so that they're wrong sides together. And I find it helpful when pressing in this manner to first attach some wonder clips along the bottom edge, making sure that the raw edges are aligned. It just helps keep the fabric from shifting so that you can get a nice press along this finished edge. Okay, so then I'm going to use my fingers to just sort of pull the finished edge away from the pins at the bottom. And I'm going to use my iron to give this area a press. So we're going to take this over to the sewing machine and top stitch the finished edge using 1/8 inch seam allowance. And I'm going to increase my stitch length, and on my machine that would be 3 millimeters. So that my stitches blend in a little bit better for this top stitching, I'm going to be matching my top thread to my exterior fabric, and my bobbin thread will be matching my lining or secondary fabric. Now pull out the exterior coin purse B piece, and we're going to be placing this piece so that it's aligned with the right hand side of coin purse C. So I'm going to go ahead and flip this so that it's right sides together with the zipper. And I'm going to pin this top edge. We're going to take this over to the sewing machine and sew this pinned edge, again with the zipper foot, using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And I'm stitching with my regular stitch length, and on my machine that's 2.5 millimeters. Now we're going to press this seam away from the zipper. So we're going to press it in this manner. So I'm going to go ahead and just zip that zipper back up for just a second. And I'm also going to use, you can either use a washable fabric glue stick or just wash away Wonder Tape. I'm going to use the glue stick, and I'm going to apply the glue to just this area that we just pressed, and I'm going to set it with a hot dry iron. So the glue or either the Dritz Wash Away Wonder Tape is going to hold the fabric away from the zipper. So this is what it should look like. Now we're going to trim this unit so that it is exactly 4 inches tall. So I'm going to take my ruler and place it so that I can measure 4 inches, and we're going to be trimming away from the bottom edge. The reason we're trimming away to make this unit 4 inches exactly is because depending on the width of your zipper tape, it might alter the height of your piece, and we want everyone's pieces to be exactly the same. So you can either use your rotary cutter or your scissors. And again, we're trimming away the excess, anything over 4 inches away from the bottom edge. Okay, now we're going to do a bit of measuring in from the left-hand side. So I'm going to use some chalk for this. Our first line is going to be 7/8 of an inch in from the left-hand side, and we're just marking on the coin purse C fabric. Okay, 7/8 of an inch, and the second vertical line will be 1 3/8 of an inch. Okay, you can either press with your iron or finger press, and then we're going to be doing a bit of top stitching. So first we're going to take that first line and we're going to press it toward the right side of the fabric. And I'm just going to finger press. And then the second line, we're going to press toward the wrong side of the fabric. So we're going to take this over to the sewing machine. We're going to top stitch this edge using an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. And then I'm going to flip it over and we're going to press that 7/8 of an inch edge, just this portion over here. Again, using an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. And I'm going to be completing this top stitching using a lengthened stitch length, and on my machine that's 3.5 millimeters. Okay, so after that top stitching is complete, this is what that piece should look like. So you've got this line of top stitching, and then in the back, a second separate line of top stitching. Okay, now go ahead and pull out your 2 exterior coin purse A pieces, and we're going to be attaching one to either side. So I'm going to start on this side. I'm going to flip the fabric so that it's right sides together with this side edge of the fabric. And we're going to pin this in place. We're going to sew this pinned edge using 1/4 inch seam allowance. I went ahead and took the zipper foot off my machine, and I'm going to be stitching this using my regular stitch length. Now we're going to attach the remaining coin purse A piece to the left hand side. So go ahead and move this out of the way if necessary. And we're also going to attach it to this piece at the top. Okay, so we're going to sew this edge, again using 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, so this is what it should look like after both of the coin piece A pieces are attached. And I just wanted to mention this left-hand side is a little finicky to sew together just because these 2 portions are separate, they're not attached. So after you've sewn yours in place, just kind of do a visual check and make sure everything looks nice and even. If not, if you need to unpick just this small section, go ahead and do that and resew it. It'll be worth it in the finished wallet. And another thing that I wanted to mention is after you've sewn this in place, this sort of accordion portion over here should hit right at the seam line. Because this is a small portion to press and top stitch, these 2 areas of top stitching over here, sometimes things shift a little bit before top stitching, which could cause this not to lay where it's supposed to right at the seam lines. So if you need to adjust, I would suggest folding it in place where it should be, and if necessary, if you need to unpick this top stitching over here in order to get it to lay flat, and then you can restitch it. So both of those things are just some things to look for, and if they need to be unpicked and redone, they're relatively short pieces to unpick and restitch, and just so we get our wallets looking nice and even when everything comes together. So the next step is we're going to trim the overhang of the zipper tape on either side. Obviously you want to make sure your pull is in the center before you do that. And then we're going to press, let me move the zipper head toward the middle. We're going to press the seam toward the A piece. So basically toward the outer edge. And we're going to tack it down like what we did before with this strip on the top, either with the washable glue stick or the Dritz Wash Away Wonder Tape. So I'm going to go ahead and move this to the side and apply some glue. And I'll glue one side at a time just to give the glue a chance to set. Okay, now pull out your secondary coin purse D piece. And we're going to be placing this zippered portion directly on top and centered. So I'm going to flip to the back and make sure there's equal amounts of that exterior fabric approximately showing on either end. I'm going to pin it in place. And then I'm also going to pin the top and the bottom edges. We're going to sew the outer edge using an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, and I recommend sewing with the exterior face down because later on we'll be trimming away this overhang of the exterior. Okay, now we're going to trim this assembled piece to exactly 8 inches wide. And even though we measured it before, this piece should also measure exactly 4 inches tall. So 8 inches across, 4 inches tall. If you need to do any trimming, you'll do that now. So now we're going to complete the final top stitching for this piece. So we're going to be stitching using an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. We're going to stitch on top of this coin purse A piece, an 1/8 of an inch away from the seam. We're going to pivot across this fabric that's above the zipper, again an 1/8 of an inch, and then we're going to stitch down the opposite end, and that will enclose all of the raw edges or the areas that we glued down in previous steps. And I'm going to increase my stitch length for this top stitching on my machine. That's 3 millimeters. And I'm just going to stop with the needle down, lift the presser foot up, and then bring it back down so that I can make sure this area is nice and flat. I hope you enjoyed that demonstration for making that hinged zipper pocket. And Danny said there were a couple of questions coming through about tonight's bag lab, so I'm going to answer them live right now. Okay, Christine wanted to know, can you make the hinge on both sides? That's a good question. I don't see why not. You'll just need to make your PC, you'll need to make that longer to account for a hinge on both sides, because this piece, as it stands right now, is just for the hinge on the left-hand side. Diana says, what wallet pattern is that? That's an excerpt from the Acorn wallet, which you can find in the shop right now.